Hey y'all, welcome back to RJK English. Today I'm going to talk about a conversation I had yesterday, and which I have often with students. Now I'm a little older, so maybe what I say holds a little bit more weight. I don't know. But someone asked me, Alex, how do you know? You know a lot about history, you know a lot about cultures, you've learned some about language. How do you approach learning something new? Like, let's take history for instance. The person really liked that I knew a lot about their history, things like this. I probably started learning. It was probably back 2003 that I really started getting into reading a lot and thinking about how to learn things. And I guess I've acquired some advice that I would give. First is, let's say you have a new, first, always approach things from a question. What is something that you want to answer? What's something that bothers you? Maybe you are in Saudi Arabia and you go, what is the difference between us and Persians and Iranians? I know there's a difference, but what is it? Well, now you've asked a question, right? Now you can use that question to go gather data, right? It's a start. That's one thing I would say. Ask questions. When you meet people from other countries and you wonder, why do they do things the way they do? Ask that question. I'm going to take you through a little bit of an interesting way that I learned about India and about the Indo-European language. And this might seem a little strange, okay? So as I started reading, I noticed that this symbol, and I'm probably not going to draw it right, this symbol. Now, if you're from the West, you know what this symbol is, right? And I probably don't want this up on my board because people wonder what I'm talking about. So this is from the Nazis, okay? We know it from the Nazis in the West. What does it symbolize? It symbolizes murderers. People that thought they were the superior race and they wanted to murder people, right? Well, where does this actually come from? It comes from India. It comes from, you'll see it throughout the world, especially where Buddhism is spread. So look up, this is called a swastika. Swastika, I think it comes from the Sanskrit, probably something like this, swastik, something like this. Someone can correct me, probably swastik. Look up Japan swastika temple, and I bet you're going to find swastikas on that temple. Does that mean they were Nazis? No, they came way before the Nazis, right? So where does this symbol come from? Well, it has the idea of time, or I think the sun, things like this. You would have to ask an Indian exactly what it means to them. It probably just kind of means God or something like this. Well, about 200 years ago, Germans and British people were in India, and they suddenly started realizing as they studied Sanskrit that the language of Sanskrit resembled German and resembled English in weird ways. Through this, they discovered the idea of the Indo-European language. They realized Sanskrit is related to the European languages. They realized there was an Indo-European heritage. And in India, they had the idea of the Aryans. And it turns out the Aryans were the ones that wrote the Rig Veda, the first of the Vedas. And the Brahmins and the Kshatriyas of India, and when you look at the caste system, they like to think of themselves as being from the Aryans. I'm not going to judge either way if that's true or not, okay? But we kind of mix this up with white people. And we know that in the world there's this racist idea that there's this master race, and usually it's attributed to white people. Why? Because Europe and America are incredibly powerful. There you go. If Africa, If African nations were ruling the world, probably it would be the other way around. I don't know. I'm not trying to downplay racism because it's really screwed up when it comes to this. So Germans took this idea of the Aryans and said that was our original race. We were those Aryans. Some of them went to India, some of them went to Europe. And the problem is other people have mixed into that. And let's kill them. I mean, that's their ideology. That has nothing to do with this, but they took it and made it their symbol, right? So you have a symbol in India that has nothing to do with being the master race. And in Germany, it turns into this master race idea. Well, in India, there have been political parties that have actually taken this symbol back with Nazi ideology and said, we are the Aryans in the way that Germans meant it, and we are better. And maybe there was some Aryan ideas before as well. I'm not saying that it's just from Europe, but they really took this on. And Mein Kampf, which is Hitler's, what Hitler wrote, became one of their founding books. You can read about it. I'm not going to get into politics. But this is an idea of how people realized that there was a link. Then people took advantage of it, used those symbols, and then people actually recycled the symbol in a strange way as well, which is very useful because if you want to control a population, you use a symbol that they associate with something spiritual and you connect it to something that gives you power. Okay, so that is an example of how I said, why would there be swastikas in India? And I started asking around, and Indians told me, did you know that German and Sanskrit are linked? And I was like, what? And so I started reading about it. And then it expands your knowledge. So I had a question and I followed it. Okay? So does that make sense? Ask questions. Never let an opportunity pass you by when you meet someone from somewhere else. When you get to know them, look at the way they do things and go, why do they do things that way? And then use that to learn. Here's my, I have some tips. 1, know culture or ethnic group is better. All humans are the same. What I mean by this is, as you search out new information, if you go in there, you will have biases. Okay, you will say, I loved growing up Buddhist and I think that's the best. I mean, I grew up in Iowa and I thought that was the best culture. In Iowa! It's look up Iowa. It's in the middle of nowhere. No one wants to go there, but I thought it was the greatest, right? And especially the east side of Des Moines. I hated people from the west side of Des Moines. That's my hometown. I still, to this day, I don't like people from the west side of Des Moines. That's how our minds work, right? But what I'm saying is, go in knowing that no culture or ethnic group is better. So when you encounter things that you think are strange, start from this and ask questions. Why do they do things this way? Second, start from a strengths perspective. Look at what they're doing well. How are they taking care of their families? How does what they do help their community? How does it help their survival? Look at it from that lens. That will help you to analyze their culture. When you see something you don't like, admit it to yourself. Put it on a shelf and go, I'm bookmarking this, something I don't like, and keep watching. Talk to people from that culture. Be careful, but ask some questions, and then start to develop people that you notice usually have the right answers to this. Start developing them. Ask who they read. Who do you read about? Meet people from other countries. Ask them kind of the same thing and find out who they read. Then start reading those things. Another thing that I'll throw out is if you want to get a general viewpoint of something, let's say you just in general want to understand a region, start with movies and books. Start with movies and books about that region. Start to develop some emotion. Let's say I'm studying the Crusades. Okay, Crusades, bloody history in Europe. If you don't know about it, look it up. Crusades. Western Europe was trying, mostly Western Europe, no, actually all of Europe, was trying to reclaim the Promised Land. And they were fighting mostly Muslims. Okay, Muslim kingdoms. Christians fighting Muslims, but mostly kingdoms fighting kingdoms. It was political. Well, if I want to know about that, maybe I watch some movies about the Crusades. What does this do? Does it tell me everything about the Crusades? No, but it gives me, it starts to build a framework of people. Oh, who is Saladin or Salahuddin? Who is this person? You start to build this knowledge. You start to build an idea of timelines, okay? And it builds some emotion. You start to get some questions. I really like that character. Were they real? Starts to build, right? And what I mean is by fiction, okay? Then maybe you want to move on to documentaries and nonfiction. Or maybe like Nat Geo. You're just gaining general knowledge here. And then from there, maybe you want to find some good thinkers. Now, if you've been building up your base of good thinkers, now you have people to go to and see if they have written on it or if they have talked about it. Who have they read? Now you're starting to build knowledge. And 3, look for alternatives. So if I'm learning about the Crusades and I only read stuff from Europe, what's their point of view going to be? Overall, it's going to be that Europeans were the good guys and the Islamic empires were the bad guys. Why don't I watch a movie or read something from the other point of view, from the point of view of people that lived at that time, or Muslims, or I say Muslims, but I mean people from that society of today. What have they written about? What did Edward Said write about the Crusades? Edward Said. What did he write about the Crusades? Palestinian author, Oxford educated, I believe, was in the West and the East. What has he said? You're looking for alternatives, and then start to find the debate. Find the debate. What are people debating about? And then talk about it with people. This is how you build knowledge. You're building general knowledge, and then on top of that, you're building your specific knowledge. And as you do this, you'll start to learn who to listen to. Who do I find useful and who isn't? Maybe one author, I really liked them for a while. And then all of a sudden I realized, other people don't respect this person very much. Why don't they respect them? And as you grow, you maybe take on someone new. And sometimes people will totally blow up your ideas. Like I have an idea of how India works, and then I talk to Indians and they're like saying stuff like maybe Hinduism didn't start until after Buddhism or something like that. Something that you're like, whoa, what? And you start to get their point of view. They have learned about it from another perspective. This can only build, right? So that's my long-winded 15-minute video about how to approach building knowledge. If you do this, imagine, I've been doing this since 2003. What is that? Almost going on 20 years. And I built a lot of knowledge about India, about a lot of different places, about different language groups. And it just enhances my life. Okay? So try it out. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. And hit us up on Facebook. And let's have a further conversation about that. Who do you read? How do you build knowledge? Do you just listen to the teacher? It's very good to listen to your professors. That's a great way of building knowledge. Make sure to challenge it as well. Okay? Talk to you later.